On this episode,
and the fan base that we have here, I mean, we knew the Canadians loved hockey. We were gonna get that part of the fan base, but it's after the Canadians leave that you're not sure what you were gonna get. And the Valley's bought into hockey. They've fallen in love with hockey, and we're getting fan support from all 9 cities, and that's what you want.
from the coveted corner booth in a little bar at the center of the Coachella Valley universe, welcome to another Big Conversation with Patrick Evans and Randy Florence, presented by the McCallum Theater. Visit McCallumtheater.org or reach the box office at 760-340-2787. Gentlemen.
Well, thank you very much, Howard. We are back at the corner booth at Skip Page's Little Bar. My name is Patrick Evans, and I'm here with my co-host, good friend, and sidekick, Randy Florence. Randy,
I'm 3 things this week.
You are 3 things.
Sidekick, co-host, and great friend, best friend.
You continue to get paid for only one of them. And that's being my friend. My wife pays a lot of people to be my friend. That's how it works.
No, I'm not making nearly enough.
No. A few people do. John McMullen, our producer. We're delighted to be back here at Skip Page's Little Bar. We want to give a shout out to the McCallum Theater, our presenting sponsor. Getting closer and closer to the season. Season tickets are on sale now for the McCallum, and whether you're into great music, great comedy, Broadway, they've got something for everybody. And the season's getting a little longer. Gary Keefe came on here on our podcast. He said, he envisioned virtually a year round.
And everybody heard him say it.
So, everybody.
So he had to perform.
And they're working on that. And I think, they're really living up to the vision that Gary is working on. If you would like to get season tickets, you can go to McCallumtheater.org, and you will find the full list of season offerings. And you're going to get some incredible Broadway shows. They always bring in some great classics. But you're also going to find some, the 10 tenors are coming back this year.
Burton Cummings.
He's virtually opening the season. And I know that you're very excited about it.
I'm really excited for that.
Have you got him on the podcast?
Burton Cummings.
Yes, Burton.
No.
I call him Bert. He prefers Bert.
It sounds like you could get him on the podcast. No. He's Mr. Cummings to
me. And he's who are you two?
Yeah.
All right, I think now it's time to introduce our guest. We are so lucky today to have a gentleman who is in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Yes, he is.
And he was a gentleman who broke many barriers on the ice.
A few sticks.
He broke a few sticks, too. And he broke some hearts by doing some incredible saves in the goal. I'm talking about Grant Fuhr. He was here today. Thank you so much for joining us.
That's my pleasure.
The man that Wayne Gretzky called probably the greatest goalie in the history of the NHL.
It's nice to have good friends,
That's
isn't it?
pretty good, isn't it? Yeah, thanks, Breed. I want to start right off by saying I have pretty limited hockey knowledge because I'm a San Jose Sharks fan. And so I'm going to have to overcome that in the rest of this conversation.
Wow.
I
wouldn't have even told him.
No, they're a bad
would
team.
Not have mentioned
right now.
Right now.
They'll get better with Mike Greer, though.
One Stanley Cup, that's all I want. Just one.
I know that Randy wants to kind of, and we both do, we want to go back and talk a little bit about your incredible and really historic career in the National Hockey League. But I also want to give you a big shout out. The Firebirds rolled into town, and I think we're all sort of like, okay, they're going to do hockey here in the desert. This is going to be interesting. But they took the town by storm.
And it's been good.
It's been really good, and you get to call the games along with Evan Pignick, who's the play-by-play guy, and you sit next to him and do color and add, I think, a great deal of knowledge. I've learned a lot about hockey just by listening to you guys, because we carry, on KSQ, we carry a lot of the games, and so I've been lucky enough to watch. Tell me how much fun that's been for you to be able to come and do a hometown team.
You know what? It's been great. I love talking about hockey. So the fact I was going to go to the games anyway, and now they want me to hang out.
Now you get paid.
It's even better. Now I actually get to sit and talk about it instead of just watching the games. So, no, it's been a lot of fun, and Evan's phenomenal to work with. And he's NHL quality, and unfortunately, I think at some point he's going to end up leaving here and going to the NHL.
He's a very talented play-by-play guy, and he's also very knowledgeable. I listen to him when he does kind of, not during the game, but he does like breakdowns about the game on K-News and other places, and I've had him on Eye in the Desert, really very knowledgeable about the sport, and just a really incredible guy to call the games.
Yeah, he's extremely knowledgeable about the game, and more importantly, he's a fan.
Yeah.
I mean, we won't mention he's an Islanders fan, but other than that, he's a fan. Now, Evan's great to work with, and it's easy and it's fun because he does know so much about the game.
I would assume it's been made easier by the fact that this is such a good hockey team.
You know what? That doesn't hurt. I mean, you don't have to put any spit and polish on it. It's a good hockey club. It's been well coached, and they've had a lot of success in the first couple of years.
Yeah, incredible. And, of course, now Dan has been kicked upstairs, and he's going to the Kraken, so some coaching changes are coming. Do you think they're going to be able to maintain the status and the level that they've been playing at heretofore?
Well, knowing Tim and Todd, they have an expectation. So with expectations, of course, puts a little more pressure on a new coach.
Yeah, sure does.
But Derek's a great coach, and he was up in Edmonton coaching the junior team up there when I was still living up in the city, and he's been successful there. He was successful in the Dallas organization. He's successful last year in Ontario. So he's a very successful coach, very knowledgeable coach, and he's got a bunch of young players that are going to be coming in. So it's going to be an interesting year.
Well, and this is something that's interesting to be a minor league hockey fan as opposed to a major league hockey fan, because success means you're not going to be seeing some of your guys pretty quickly, or your almost entire coaching staff, because they're going to move up.
Part of a developmental league is you're going to get young players. You're going to see them for a year, 2, maybe 3 at the most, and then they're going somewhere else, preferably up into the National Hockey League.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's hard as an American League fan base to follow the players, but you like to see them going up, and Seattle's not too far away from here, so it makes it a little easier.
And a lot of this valley has turned into Kraken fans because of that.
Well, there's a lot of Seattle people here.
Yeah, there's
So
a lot
that
of
doesn't hurt.
cross-pollination between the Coachella Valley and the Pacific Northwest. So many people, so many snowbirds come down here, so there's just really a natural segue from one to the other.
Yeah, it's been phenomenal. And the fan base that we have here, I mean, we knew the Canadians loved hockey. We were going to get that part of the fan base, but it's after the Canadians leave that you're not sure what you were going to get. And the Valley's bought into hockey. They've fallen in love with hockey, and we're getting fan support from all 9 cities, and that's what you want.
Yeah, I was really pretty amazed. I thought also, I think this is kudos to the team, the organization, because they came in and very intentionally started to build that fan base. They started to make connections within the community, and they really did. They turned the whole valley into a giant group of hockey fans. It's pretty amazing. Like, you took me Randy took me to the very first game I ever went to.
It was such a blast.
And we had a ball. We went to a few games that first season.
I love just to wander around the place. I'm so amazed that arena's even there.
It's unbelievable.
So obviously you've played in some pretty high-profile stadiums, high-profile games. Talk a little bit, if you would, about just the feeling within Acrisure, some of the noise in there at some of the key times during the season and the playoffs. How does that rank against some of what you've seen in your career?
I think it's been a great building to play in. I know the guys love it. I mean, the fan base is excited. I mean, for a minor league team, I think what we average, 8,400 last year. Says a lot about the fan base.
That's a big number.
That's a big number for the American League.
Wasn't that the biggest number in the league?
It was. 2 years running.
That's really impressive.
That's against a lot of established franchises that have a built-in fan base. So to go out, create that fan base, and it was a couple of years in the making before the rink was even built that they were starting to get that fan base created, and they've done a good job of promoting hockey around the valley, and you've got to promote it to all the 9 cities in the valley and make sure that the game grows, make sure that you're giving back to all the 9 cities as well.
There's kind of been an explosion in some of the youth activities as a result. The roller hockey and now the new sheet of ice that they've got.
We're gaining on it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still lots to be done. I mean, obviously with the minor hockey program, you want to see it grow and such. And again, you can't rely on your fan base. You have to keep promoting to them. You have to keep building, and building a winning culture doesn't hurt.
Now, when that team rolled into town, they did a lot of youth outreach. So obviously it's important to get the kids involved at an early age so that they become fans at an early age. So you guys have been really involved in that, and I know you've done stuff through the YMCA and other organizations to reach out to the kids.
We have, and through the One Valley Foundation, we're doing a great job of trying to reach out and trying to grow the game from the kids up. I mean, if you can get the kids to be fans, get them in the building, then obviously you get the parents in the building, and you build a big fan base that way. So a lot of the outreach has to go towards marketing towards kids, marketing to the schools, and just trying to build the game from the youth on up.
Now, how much of that outreach are you involved in?
As much as they let me.
Because I know that's something that you thoroughly enjoy. You're an ambassador of the sport.
Yeah, I mean, I love the game of hockey, and I still think it's the greatest game there is. So the fact that, one, I'm involved is great. Two, that you can grow the game. And I think that's the biggest thing that you want to do as an ex-player is you want to see the game grow. You want to see it go to markets that maybe aren't traditional hockey markets and see it succeed. And to see how well it's been perceived here has been really great.
Well, I think if you can develop a fan base for ice hockey in a place where ice never naturally occurs, you're doing something right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
So
pretty
Well, we
impressive.
keep ice in a glass here.
That is true.
When teams like Florida and Dallas started popping up, was there any part of you as a hockey traditionalist that was like, what are we doing with the NHL in Florida? Or were you just excited about the expansion?
No, you want to see the game grow.
Yeah.
And I think that all started when Wayne got traded to LA. I think you started to see hockey expand, start to fall more mainstream, and that's what you want to see. You want to see it in different places. You want to see it grow. You see it down in the South now in some of the East Coast League cities, and the fact that hockey's successful here, I think says a lot for the way the game's growing, but it's a continuous battle to have it continue to grow.
And the impact of what he did in Southern California was massive for United States hockey.
Oh, definitely. I mean, if Wayne doesn't play in LA, you might not see teams in Bakersfield. You probably don't see a team in Ontario. I mean, San Diego, they had hockey way back in the 70s. The Mariners, I believe, in the WHA. So I'm that old now.
Now, you did a stint at the Kings, too, didn't you?
I was there for a cup of coffee. But
I think you got a check too, didn't you?
yeah, we got a couple of those.
He had to pay for the coffee. So, you were born in Canada, so you were exposed to hockey at a very early age. When did you fall in love with the sport?
I started playing at 4.
Really?
Wow.
So I pretty much loved it since I was 4. And I've got teachers that'll tell you that's all I loved. But we may not have been the good student.
Didn't love the homework, but
We're a
loved the
student
hockey.
of the game.
And where you grew up, was everybody on skates?
Everybody skates. I mean, that's all you can do during the winters. It's cold. It can be miserable outside, but you still go play. And I learned to play in an outdoor rink. So you freeze your feet, you go home, they thaw out, you cry, you go back, you do it again the next day. And that's just, it creates a love for the game.
And at what age did you get him move into the net?
4.
Right away.
I'm
Huh?
that guy that liked the equipment and thought it was a novel concept and couldn't figure out why nobody else wanted to do it.
I always wanted to play goalie on an ice hockey team, but I couldn't skate, so that was kind of a detriment.
Rules you out.
It did rule me out.
Yeah, actually, and I learned a lot just going and watching the Firebirds games. But the equipment that you have to wear as a goalie, I mean,
It's better now.
Were you
were laid
pre-mask?
down. I mean, how much does that stuff weigh when you were playing?
When I first started and through most of my career, it's probably about 25, 30 pounds.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's probably 7 or 8.
Wow.
It's gotten much better.
But it's very
stuff,
cool.
huh?
Like I'm looking at the equipment they're wearing, and especially the leg wear where you can kind of kneel down and
It does the work for you.
Yeah, it provides that great barrier. And I'm like, wow, that's cool. I think it's almost cheating, but it's cool.
Tell us about the mask from when you first started to the way it is now.
So the one I first started with is, if everybody's familiar with Friday the 13th, so it looked like Jason's. But the only thing that those were designed for was so you wouldn't get cut. If you got hit in the face, it was still like getting hit in the face with a baseball bat.
Yeah.
The only difference is you didn't have any sewing to go with it.
Crazy.
So we started with that, then we went to the first combination mask and cage, where the view is a little better, but pucks could squeeze between the bars once in a while.
Whoa.
If you weren't too happy about that. But it's gotten better and better. They've added Kevlar to the masks now, so the masks are designed to absorb all the impact, and it does a wonderful job of protecting the guys.
And every one of them is a piece of art now.
Oh yeah. Oh no, that's the fun part is you get to paint it the way you want. And
Did you
your way
have
of
a standard?
expressing.
Did you have a standard way you did yours through your career, or did you change it up?
no, if you look back through, I've gone through all sorts of different paint jobs.
Yeah.
My first few years, every 3 or 4 months you'd want to create something different, so you create a different mask. And once we got to a couple that fans really took a liking to and such, I kind of stayed with that till I moved to some different teams, and then you can get a little more intricate. And I had a gentleman by the name of Frank Cipra paint my masks eventually, where you actually have an artist painting your masks.
Wow.
So
Oh, very cool.
you throw out ideas, they make it happen. turn it into a piece of art.
That's cool.
What was the worst injury you sustained playing the sport?
Well, let's see. I've managed to rip both shoulders out of the socket and had those screwed back in. I tore an ACL, MCL, PCL in one knee and remodeled that. So we've had some remodeling done.
How did you do that?
I had a guy come up underneath my arm when I was reaching for a puck, and it just popped the shoulder up out of the socket.
That's all.
That's
It was just that.
he says
and
it
they
like
popped it back in and
like
finished the game.
I was going to get the paper, and
We've gotten pretty good at rehabbing things. So
Do you ever get involved in any goalie-to-goalie tussles in the middle of the ice?
not very often. We always had big, tough teams.
Yeah.
So the goalies at 5'9", 5'10", you're not out there to fight. We've got other guys that can take care of that. Most of the goalies, when you see them, we're having a conversation as to what's
That's
going
what I
on.
wonder.
We're all mostly friends, so
where are we drinking after the game? What are we doing?
that's what it used to be. It was like, okay, where are we going for a beer?
That's right. You're a very, very good golfer.
I play a little bit.
You play, and you run a great golf tournament.
Well, we try and have some fun with that.
Tell people a little bit about that. We're going to get back to hockey very quickly, but I want to talk about your golf tournament because you do a great job of raising funds, and I want you to promote that.
Yeah, so we put a little golf tournament together. My wife and I run around. We used to travel about 180 days a year doing different charity events, but never did anything at home. So when I moved down to the Valley here, give or take 16, 17 years ago, we decided that we wanted to do something here in the Valley, keep the money here in the Valley, and give back to the community you live in. So obviously golf's a great way to raise money, and we decided that we were going to put a charity together and see what we could do, raise some money, and year 4, year 5 now, we've raised a bunch of money for the children's program over at the Betty Ford Center. So it's a great way to give back to the community, and it makes changes in life, and that's what you want to do.
Grant, the friends that you have and the people that you've been able to get to come to this tournament are just phenomenal. It must blow
we
you
got a
away.
pretty good list of friends.
It's
so
a really good list of friends.
It's been fun.
Your
And the fact-
Rolodex reads like a Hall of Fame entry from a number of different sports, from baseball to hockey to football. You get a lot of incredible athletes who come down and support your cause.
Yeah, I've been pretty lucky to have a lot of great friends over the years that I've actually met through golf. So the fact that they'll come support a local charity, I think, says a lot for the athletes in general. And we try and bring in good people that are fun. They like to socialize with people. They like to give back. And that's kind of the key to our event is we're not the hoity-toity event where it's all dress up and everything. It's pretty laid back, and we want to have a little bit of fun, and we want to make sure everybody else has fun.
And the group that you bring in, they really enjoy networking with the fans. Like it's obvious, and I've been to a couple of those events where they're just out having fun with the people that enjoyed with them when they were players, enjoy them now. Like they get out there and really seem to connect.
Yeah, and that was part of the thing when we decided to have our own event, that we wanted to bring in good people. And we've been pretty fortunate the last few years. You bring a guy like Marcus Allen or Bo Jackson, where they're great with the people. And we dragged Bo to one of the games. Bo wanted to come and watch one of the playoff games last year, so he was up. Some of the guys that didn't dress, he was explaining to them how to be a professional athlete. And it's actually fun when the guys get around regular people.
Yeah.
The event the night before that you put on is really, really cool.
The pairings party.
I'd like to take credit for that, but that's actually Lisa.
Is it Lisa? Well,
Your
we'll have
wife
Lisa
is a
on next
tremendous
week.
asset. She's terrific.
Yeah, no, she's extremely detailed and very good at planning, and each year she thinks her party has to outdo the last one. So every year it gets bigger and bigger, and we try and do something a little different and make it enjoyable for the people.
We are going to continue our conversation here with Grant in just a moment, but we want to stop for a moment and recognize our presenting sponsor, the McCallum Theater.
The McCallum Theater's 2024-2025 season is on sale now. The world's top artists, from jazz, pop, classical, and comedy to the best of Broadway. Only at the Valley's favorite place for great entertainment. Tickets are on sale now at the McCallum Theater box office, by phone, or online at McCallumTheater.org. Tickets sell quickly, so order yours today. A new, exciting season only at the McCallum. The McCallum Theater's 2024-2025 season is on sale now.
Welcome back to Big Conversations Little Bar. We are here with Grant Fuhr, who broke so many barriers. You were the first African-American on the ice as a goalie to win a Stanley Cup. Is that correct?
Correct.
And to go to the Hall of Fame.
And to go to the Hall of Fame. There were a lot of firsts involved in that. And tell me a little bit about that, because hockey was a pretty white sport.
Predominantly a white sport, but at the same time, there's a lot of kids that have played. And in Canada, it's not so much seen as black and white. I think that's the biggest difference between Canada and the U.S. is you're looked at as a player first and foremost, and it's an easy way to play. And some of the guys like Willie O'Ree, Tony McKegney, Mike Marson, Bill Riley, played in Val James, played in some tough cities and some tough areas in the States where it was kind of frowned upon, where they get a hard time for it, where I get kind of lucky. I get to play with 5 or 6 of the best players in the world, and you kind of get to blend in, plus I wore a mask. So, I get to blend in that way, and that makes a big difference just in itself, that the culture you're brought up in. And in Canada, everybody plays. I think that was the one thing, is that everybody plays, and they look at you as a player. It's not so much that cultural difference, whereas once you get to the States, all of a sudden culture comes into it, and you get a little more of the racial divide, which is what we're trying to, how would you put it? Trying to get over that barrier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where anybody can play the game. And I know the NHL promotes the hockey is for everyone, and they've done a good job at the start of that, but it has to continue to grow. And I think that's kind of been a little bit slower than people would like to see. But at the same time, it's starting to grow, and it's starting to show some progress.
Feels
but
like it.
I feel like, especially, I think it helped a great deal that your team was so successful.
It probably didn't hurt.
But, in terms of breaking barriers, and you're playing on this team and you're pulling in, how many Stanley Cups did you guys win in that? 5?
Yeah, we got 5 in 7 years.
7
nice
years.
Nice little start.
Yeah, that's a good little run.
Yeah.
It's a good little run. Obviously that helps, and I think it does help, but kind of erase the racial barriers that people might see, because success is one of those things. Success has many parents and failures and orphans.
Yeah, I saw a picture a few years ago in Colorado. They had just won something in a 7th game overtime, and I'm looking at the crowd, and thousands and thousands of people hugging and high fives and everything else, and I'm thinking, that person voted for somebody different, that person voted for somebody different. But in that moment, every single one of them was together, and they were loving each other because of something that they'd come together with.
Well, that's the beauty of sport.
Yeah.
Sport drags people together.
Yeah.
You can have differences politically, you can have different views on the world, but once you get into an arena and cheer for the same team, everybody's got the same view.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of all the sports, is it brings people together.
So you start as a goalie at 4. They say in baseball, one of the easiest ways to move up through baseball is to be a catcher. Does that apply to goalie?
No.
No?
Unfortunately, no. That was a quick no. It was a quick no.
It's very limited jobs. When I started, there was 16 teams. So there was only 32 jobs.
Wow.
And
I never thought of it like that. That's
and thousands of kids that want to do it.
Yeah.
So you get the opportunity. Back then they didn't limit how many different teams you could play for. So as a kid, I played with age groups that were 2, 3, 4 years older than I was, because they were short goalies.
Is that when you started to get noticed?
I'm not even sure when I really started to get noticed. I just played because I liked the game. But it's funny because as politics has kind of set into everything in the world, it's set into hockey. Well, now they limit how many teams you can play with. You have to play with your own age group and such, instead of what's best for the kids.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my pet peeve in the game still, is you want what's best for the kids, not what looks good in politics. You want the game's fun. And it's the thing that they forget is it's a game.
Do you think that change could have an impact on the quality of the game in the future?
Oh, definitely. You look at now, everybody looks at the dollars. And instead of teams worrying about winning championships, they're all little single entity businesses where they're looking, okay, how do I get my next big contract? And it's kind of taken some of the luster out of the game, where if the team won, everybody got paid. And they forget that sometimes. So you have to remind guys once in a while that that's how it works.
That's one of the cool things about being around minor league hockey too.
That's the great part about being old.
Yeah.
So much of sports has become that, even now college sports, with the ability of college athletes to get paid for name, image, likeness. That's a
whole another animal.
I think we have not even scratched the surface of how much it's going to change college athletics.
No, it's funny. in Hershey at the golf tournament and talking to Robert Royal and a couple of the guys about the NIL deals in college, and they're like, it's going to ruin college sport.
Yeah, I feel like there's a
Transfer portal.
Yeah, no, the transfer portal is. I mean,
It's a mess.
It's sort of, but also the sports dealt with free agency, and all of a sudden, it used to be you got drafted by a team, you played for that team, you had team loyalty, and the fans were loyal to you. Then suddenly there's free agency, and you can bail, and fans revolted a bit against that, and I think there's still
What still happens even in hockey? All of a sudden, you play for a team for 3 or 4 years, you take a bigger contract somewhere else. People will let you know that you took a contract for bigger money somewhere else.
And so, all of these are team sports. But as an athlete, you have to carve out the best deal for yourself. So there's a little bit of that. Those two dynamics run opposite of one another.
They do. But at the same time, the athlete has to realize if you win and you're successful, you're going to get paid somewhere down the road. I mean, the older I got, the more broken I got, the more I got paid. And it's all because you've won.
Right.
So in that dynamic, it's probably opposite of what it should be. You should be getting paid for what you're accomplishing, but in professional sport, a lot of the times you'll get paid at the end of it because you've accomplished something along the way. And they pay you because, one, you've won. So they want winners around the young guys. And you want to push that team dynamic.
So when did you know this was going to be your career, your life?
I decided that when I was in grade school.
Yeah.
Not sure that my parents thought that was the greatest idea, but I decided that that's what I wanted to do, and that's what I was gearing myself to do, and pretty fortunate to be able to do it.
And how did that kind of drive your life? I mean, nowadays kids would be on travel teams. And
Oh, no, we did that as a kid.
Did you?
Shuffled around by my parents. They got to play Uber back then before Uber started. And I left home at 15 to go play junior hockey. So you see a lot of kids leave at a young age to go play junior, and from there you progress. Hopefully you turn pro. If not, you'll play up to 4 years of junior, at least till you're 20. Some of the kids will go to college after that if they haven't made it into pros. So you can still progress through the game.
So did your parents finally
Surrender?
Did they That's a good term. Did they? I mean, hockey's a tough sport, and very much like football, the opportunity for injury is very high.
Oh, yeah. I mean, going in that there's a chance. And it's funny when you see athletes get out and they say, well, if I'd have known I was going to get hurt, I'd have never done it. I've been glued together lots, and I would still do it in a heartbeat.
But you knew. I mean, you went in, you weren't
You're not
naive about it.
No, you're not blind going in. You realize there's always an opportunity to get hurt. You look at football, it's knees, it's shoulders. You look at hockey, you look at baseball. There's always an opportunity to get hurt. But it's not something you worry about. I mean, that's just the way life is. Yeah, if they'd have told me at 50 that everything was going to hurt, I'd have probably disagreed with them back then. But at 50, guess what? Everything hurts. So,
and you'd still do it.
And I would do it in a heartbeat.
So
if my knees were good, I'd still do it now.
Was that one of the aspects of your parents' objections early on? Were your parents just worried you were going to get hurt doing this?
Well, I think part of it is your parents are protective of you.
Yeah, of course.
So they don't want to see you get hurt and such. But if you're going to be an athlete, the odds are over the course of a career, somewhere along the way, you're going to get hurt.
Well, the higher the risk, the higher the reward.
Yeah,
and that's one of the risks.
You just have to realize that there is that opportunity there that you might get hurt.
And you're playing at a level when things are happening really, really fast.
Yeah, a little bit. If it takes, you figure you've got half a second to make a decision.
Right.
And if you can't make that decision in half a second, then pretty good chance you're not going to play in the National Hockey League.
Well, that's one of the things that I learned going to my very first Firebirds game with you, Randy. I'd seen hockey games before. I lived in Orange County, so I'd been to a couple of Anaheim Duck games. It's fast. It's really fast, but I'd never sat as close as I did when I went to the Firebirds. And watching that, I mean, most hockey games are low-scoring affairs. But that's because you guys in the net are.
We try to get in the way.
You're really good at it, and a lot of those guys. And I think particularly first season and this past season, the goalies for the Firebirds have been very talented guys.
We've been pretty fortunate here. We've had a couple of NHL quality goalies.
But it's a lightning fast sport.
It's a fast sport. Each league that you go in gets that much quicker. So if here you have half a second, when you get to the NHL, then you've got less than half a second.
Fractions of a second.
So, and you've got to make that decision. You've got to realize what's happening all literally in under a second.
And I know that the television networks have played with some things like, I remember when they were highlighting the
blue tail.
The blue tail and the
Fox.
Yeah. But, despite that or because of it or as a combination, hockey has just continued to grow in popularity.
To explain it best to people is it doesn't do justice.
Right.
TV, it looks fast, but until you actually go to a game and see a game live, it's that much faster. The guys are that much bigger. The collisions are that much harder. And it's funny, if somebody's never been to a game before, I'll sit them in behind the net. And they don't realize how fast the puck actually jumps at a net. So it's a fun place to put them because you watch them jump.
That's a scary place to sit.
Put them in the net.
Yeah, most people won't do that.
Watching that, especially as a novice, sitting closely, because obviously that's where the action is, and the puck is flying at you. That's crazy.
Oh yeah, and they don't realize that piece of glass is there in front of them. So when they see a puck coming, they natural instincts to jump.
Yeah.
So it's fun to put somebody down there.
All right, we got to move on to our rapid round.
We're going to do this,
but hold on one second. Before we do,
okay,
I want to ask you. I mean, as you mentioned with the Edmonton Oilers, 5 Stanley Cups in 7 seasons. Talk about winning that first Stanley Cup on that team with that group of individuals.
Oh, as a kid growing up, everybody dreams of winning a Stanley Cup. So to actually accomplish that is, one, it's a lot of fun. 2, you don't take the time to actually appreciate it and enjoy it as much as you probably should, but you enjoy it a whole lot more after you retire.
Well, a lot of athletes will tell you, I won the first one at a young age, and I thought, I'm going to win a ton of these, and then they never do, except you did.
That we get lucky enough that we managed to repeat.
You maintained a pretty solid core of individuals.
We did. We had a great group of veterans, and every year we'd replace 1 or 2 guys, but the goal was still the same, was to be a successful team. It wasn't about the individuals, and we had some guys that easily could have been about the individuals. And you get a guy like Gretz, Mark Messier, Paul Coffey, Yari Curry. They easily could have become separate entities and businesses, but they weren't. They were all about the team, and what do I have to do to make the team successful?
Well, I think you were particularly talented. A lot of guys who play in the net were bigger than you were.
Most guys are bigger than I am, especially now.
So that, I think that's a testament, though, to your skill and your talent.
You just have to be, as a smaller goalie, you got to be a little more athletic. So
you
athletic,
moved around quite,
you read the game. My first couple of years, I just relied on reflexes.
Speed, though. You were very, very fast in the net.
It's the optical illusion.
It was a small net, so fast. Yeah. No, you were. Because you gotta be everywhere.
Yeah, as you learn to read the game, if you can anticipate, you look that much faster. And at 5'9", a lot of times I moved out a little further than most guys, so now you look bigger. So you're always moving out and back. And try to create the optical illusion that you're bigger than you really are.
Well, did I read that you held a record at one point for the most points scored in a season by a goalie?
Yeah, I still have it.
You still have that record?
I still have it.
So explain for
I'm 100 years old and I still have it.
For people who might not know, how does a goalie score a point?
Just assist.
So
you make a save, you kick it in the right direction, one of your guys grabs it, throws to another guy, and they go down and score. So what did we have? We had 14 points the one year, and I think we had another 5 or 6 in the playoffs that year. So
did you ever score a goal?
Didn't score any goals.
No.
But
ever try? You have shots on goal?
Oh, no, we had some guys that liked to score.
Yeah.
And they'd have frowned on me trying to score.
So Wayne's like, stop shooting.
Hey, Wayne, Paul, those guys like to score, so you kick it to the right people.
It is time for our rapid round with Grant. We're going to ask you a few questions here in just a moment.
We have 5 questions.
Okay.
Don't even think about the answers. Just give them to us. But Randy,
yes,
tell us about our sponsor.
It's time for the Big Conversations Little Bar Rapid Round. We ask our guests 5 key questions, and we want them to answer all of them in under 2 minutes. The Rapid Round is presented by Vitara Wellness. Just a stone's throw from Little Bar at 74345 Highway 111 in Palm Desert. Vitara Wellness is your path to lasting weight loss success. Open Monday through Friday from 9 to 5:30. Vitara Wellness offers medical weight loss services. IV treatment, vitamin and hydration therapy, hormone replacement therapy, and regenerative cell therapy. Transform your health, transform your life. Visit them online at Vitara. That's Vitara wellness.com. Live life well.
We are appreciative of Vitara Wellness for their sponsorship. Go ahead. Rapid round.
Rapid round. What's the weirdest food combination you secretly enjoy?
Oh, what do I secretly enjoy? Peanut butter and bananas.
Like Elvis
Man,
Presley.
after my own heart. Is there a place in the desert you're embarrassed to say you haven't visited?
Not yet.
Oh, good. What's the one go-to place that you take out-of-town visitors?
Where do we go? Fresh Agave or Mastro's or any golf course in town.
Any go. What is the most exotic place you've ever traveled?
That's hard to say. We were out in Phuket, Thailand this year, so that's fairly exotic.
Yeah?
We go to the Bahamas every year. We go to Bermuda. So
Yeah, as soon as I answered that question, I'm like, there's probably 55
He goes a lot of places.
places.
He goes a lot of places.
golf tournaments.
Let's see, what else have I got in here? What is your favorite curse word? And you can say anything on this.
It depends on the situation.
Oh, a situational curse word.
So
I like
somebody
that.
just came in and they just hit your shoulder and popped it out.
Yeah, there'd be a lot of words. All would probably start with F.
All right, and I have a bonus question.
Okay?
What's the lowest golf round you've ever shot?
63.
63.
I used to be good.
Oh, that's damn good. Randy, what's the lowest golf round you ever shot?
75.
Okay. So it's good to know that.
Best 6 holes of my life.
Yeah, what'd you do after the turn? All right, that's this week's Rapid Round presented by Vitara Wellness in Palm Desert. VitaraWellness.com, and you can call them at 760-208-4011. And we appreciate Grant for being such a good sport.
Thank you, Grant.
Not a problem.
Who was the toughest guy on those teams?
Oh, easily Dave Semenko.
Yeah. Was he kind of the one that protected Wayne?
He made sure that Wayne had lots of room to play. And it's funny, it's a lost art in the game of hockey.
I wondered about that.
The more they try and take it away, you don't realize you want your best players to be able to be your best players. Well, the way to do that is you have a little bit of toughness around. It keeps the game honest.
Yeah. And it allows some of the scorers to do what they need to do.
Yeah. Nobody can take advantage of your best players then. So there's always going to be a fit for that in the game.
Who is the? Obviously, when you were looking at other teams, you knew what their practices were. You knew whether they were likely to go high or low or in the 5-hole or whatever. Who was the one person that you didn't want to see skating at you unopposed with the puck?
There wasn't any one person you didn't want to see. No. I mean, there's certain guys that gave you all sorts of trouble. I mean, a guy like Mario Lemieux, Al McInnes, probably had the hardest shot I played against. So there's different guys that different things, but it was funny. We had to learn the players that you were going to play against without video. So you had to go by memory. Whereas now they watch hours and hours of video, whereas we did everything by memory back then.
But they're watching them on iPads on the bench.
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible.
So you had to learn the game.
Yeah.
And you learned what certain guys' tape jobs on their sticks looked like. That's how you recognize who it was in a split second. And just little things like that you pick up over the years.
All right, what are you looking forward to most for the upcoming season of the Firebirds? They get started at home in October.
Home in October against Bakersfield, so it's going to be a fun year. I mean, we're going to be a much younger club this year.
Yeah, lots of changes this year.
Lots of changes, but it's going to be an enthusiastic group. So, yeah, they're younger, they're going to make some mistakes, but at the same time, they're going to play a high-tempo brand of hockey, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Grant Fuhr, we're so delighted to have you, a National Hockey League Hall of Famer, and so many other accolades. We'd have to extend the length of the podcast to list them. But
well, we're going to have to extend it a little bit. I want to get into a couple of things here with you because I think these are important. And we got a few more minutes here. So you came off all that success, 5 Stanley Cups in 7 years. And then the next year, at the end of that, you ran into a little problem with the NHL. Could you talk about that for a second?
Yeah, with the success comes choices.
Yeah.
And back in the 80s, choices were there's pretty girls, there's partying, and all the such. And
And when you're winning 5 Stanley Cups,
when you're winning,
everything is at your disposal.
Oh, yeah. When you're winning and you're young, you make some bad choices. So I made a choice to go down a road that probably, at that time, you don't really think of the consequences. But as you get a little older, you realize what the consequences are, and you want to get your life straight. So half the battle was putting the wheels back on the tracks, and it's just part of growing up.
And how'd you do that? Because part of that's what brought you to the Valley, right?
Actually, I made a stop here at Betty Ford back in '88. So came down for a little 30-day vacation. And
now you actually took a 60-game suspension. That's almost the whole season.
Yeah, they were going to suspend me for a season, and then they cut it back to, I think, 40.
Oh, okay.
So it was an 80-game season. So I got half the year for good behavior. So, and it was one of those that I made the mistake of admitting that I'd gone through the problem. And that's why I got suspended. It wasn't that I'd gone through the problem. It was because I admitted it later and it came out in public.
Was there testing and stuff back then?
Towards the end of my tenure at Edmonton, there was testing. I tested it all the time.
Yeah.
And never failed a test or anything. So if I had said, no, I didn't do it, could have got away with it.
You would never have had suffered the suspension.
Nope. So
you got called on the carpet for being honest.
Being honest had a price to pay, but at the same time, if other guys benefit from it, then it's worthwhile.
And when you came back, were there any ramifications with the fans?
Oh, no,
the ones in the opposing arenas.
Fans can be relentless.
Yeah, some of them were like holding up bags of sugar and stuff
I
as
got
you
that.
were skating around.
Oh, yeah, I got that for a little while, and you go on Twitter, you still get it on Twitter and such.
Really, to this day?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. People don't like to see you improve your life.
Yeah.
They would much rather go back into the dredges of what you did as a young guy and the mistakes that you made.
Wow.
And so a lot of this has kind of informed what you and Lisa have been doing over the last few years, right?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, she lost her son to it. Mm-hmm. So, for us to give back to the Valley and make it better, and the fact that I still have a bunch of NHL guys that I talk to that have since then gone through the program and such. So, the fact that there's an alumni to that most people don't realize. And you know what? If people are having issues, I've had some friends reach out and say, hey, do you know somebody you can talk to? I'm like, yeah, I can make a call and find somebody, and they'll make a call. And if you can improve somebody's life, then it's all worthwhile.
Well, you know, my wife and I have some family history with this stuff, and one of those nights I got a chance to talk to Ryan Leaf because he was
Ryan's awesome.
And some of the stuff that he had to say to me was really, really important.
No,
so
Ryan's phenomenal.
Your tournament, the charity is Betty Ford, correct?
Yeah, children's program.
Yeah.
Because people don't realize that adults and everybody go through the issue, but as they're going through it, what happens to the kids? The kids don't know how to function with it. They're not sure whether it's their fault and such. So the Betty Ford Center does a great job of educating the kids of how to go through mommy and daddy have a disease.
I've been in those rooms at Betty Ford where the kids put on the tiles something that they're writing to the parent.
Feelings.
That's pretty powerful stuff.
The fact that you can help out kids is great. And most of what I do, we do cancer charities, all sorts of different things, but it's all geared towards kids.
Yeah.
I think the time that you and I first met, you were playing in the Sinatra tournament for the Barbara Sinatra Children's Center.
It was a day or two ago.
Yeah.
Well, listen, you've brought some stuff to this Valley that's just phenomenal, and the fact that you allow this story to be told and you lead by an example has been so important here. I really appreciate you being so open about all of this.
No, it's my pleasure, and it's all part of growing. And the fact that you can leave the world in a better place makes it worthwhile.
Yeah.
Well, it's an enormous part of your legacy.
Yeah.
That you turned a situation around in your life and use that as an example to help other people who are in the same situation and who might feel hopeless. And you provide a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel for some people, and that's a great thing to be involved in.
No, I take pride in doing it and enjoy it. And you know what? If you help one person, then you've succeeded at what you want to accomplish.
And if people want to know more about this story, there was actually a documentary, Making Coco, the Grant Fuhr story, on Netflix.
Nickname I've had since junior.
Where'd that come from?
I get a little better tan than most of the guys. So
Got it. This was so great. This
This
so
has been
great.
fantastic. And by the way, Randy, kudos to you. You volunteer at Grant's golf tournament.
I do.
yep.
You've done that for the last couple of years.
I do. It's such a blast. I get a new shirt every time. It's really cool.
I know it's personal to you, but it's I think a really important thing.
Yeah.
It's an important thing for the Valley, and you and Lisa give back a lot.
And you know what? You can't do it without the volunteers. I think that's the big thing. Is we're pretty fortunate. We've got a lot of great volunteers that have the same vision we have, and you can't do it without the volunteers. Volunteers, sponsors, all that fun stuff.
When's your tournament next year?
We haven't set a date yet.
Okay.
That's Mama's job. She'll pick a date. And
But it is upcoming.
Start the planning. Oh,
It
yeah.
will happen.
It will definitely happen.
All right. And you travel around. You play in a lot of golf tournaments, as you pointed out, that are geared toward children's charities. And
I still roam around and play a little bit. I mean, we're Hershey, Coeur d'Alene. I'm going to go up to Calgary to play in one. I'm going to wander over to Bermuda to play in one. So we still trying to squeeze it in. Not quite the 180 days we used to travel, but we'll still probably get 60 or 70 days in.
The last time I played with Grant, I had to apologize to him at the end of the round because I'm certain his back was hurting really bad because the other three guys in his foursome, we weren't doing very well that day.
But we had fun,
We had a great time.
That's all that
I think
matters.
we raised some money, too.
which is all that matters.
Grant, thank you so much for being a guest on Big Conversations Little Bar. It is a pleasure and an honor to have you on, sir.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And we look forward, I particularly look forward to having you on our air on KESQ, our various stations, for the next season of the Firebirds.
Yeah, we're in the tail end of vacation time. We're back at it.
Yeah, you said life settles down a little bit when you get back to hockey.
Hockey season, the world slows down, so I can just stick to hockey.
Awesome.
There you go.
Thanks for being here, Grant.
You want to
My
be
pleasure.
sure to be listening to Grant and Evan as the Firebirds take the ice. First home game, I think, is October 11th, somewhere in that range.
If I looked at my phone, I could probably tell you the exact date, but I know we open against Bakersfield here at home.
Bakersfield here at home. So it's a brand new team this year, so it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll look forward to hearing your analysis because it's always sharp, bright, and on the spot. We love it.
I don't know if it's on the spot, but we'll have some fun with it anyway.
Randy, thank you very much.
I'm glad to be
I
here
know you were
again.
really excited about this, and you Randy and I share the duties of asking guests to be on, and you were really excited about getting Grant on the program, and it's well worth. I know that you had to make him a lot of promises.
I did, and eventually I'm going to have to pay off on those.
Yeah, you're going to have to wash his
It was still good to
car,
have him
clean
here.
his house. There's a lot of stuff you're going to have to do.
I don't care. It was worth it.
Absolutely. John McMullen, our producer, thank you, sir. And to all of our listeners, we appreciate you guys. We appreciate the McCallum Theater as our presenting sponsor. Please log on to McCallumtheater.org. Get your season tickets. A lot of those shows are going to sell out really quickly. They do it.
Burton Cummings.
Burton Cummings.
Which, by the way, Burton's pretty good.
He's really
We've had a
good.
chance to see him and spend some time with him, so
that's
you'll
right.
enjoy it.
Brotherhood.
There you go.
Burton Cummings.
Ladies and gentlemen. And I think that show's already sold out. So, Randy, I'm sorry we couldn't get you tickets. I feel really bad. Thank you very much for joining us on Big Conversations Little Bar. Thanks to Skip Page. And we will be here. Please subscribe to our podcast. You can find it on all of your favorite podcast platforms, and you can find it on our website, BigConversationsLittleBar.com.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Big Conversations Little Bar. Recorded on location at Skip Page's Little Bar in Palm Desert, California, the center of the Coachella Valley universe. And presented by the McCallum Theater. Online at McCallumtheater.org. This program is a production of the Mutual Broadcasting System. All episodes are available from BigConversationsLittleBar.com and most major podcast portals, including Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Spotify.